Hola a todos, ¿qué tal? Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches. Estamos por todo el mundo, entonces no sé dónde están, pero bueno. Eh, Les saludo igual. How's it going, everybody? Hope you're doing well. Before we start, just do a quick technical check. Could you please, you should have a chat box in your corner. Could you just go ahead and let me know that you can see me okay? And you should see my screen moving a little bit here, just flicking between a couple of slides. Just let me know that you can hear me okay. And as soon as I get that confirmation, we're good. Hey, Kevin says, I see you. Great. All right, I'm going to set the messages public here so you can see each other. Jerry, Antonia, Christopher, Roberts, Declan, Eva, Carol, James, Flint, John. Well, loads of you here. Fantastic. All right, then. All right, so whilst we're waiting for people just to filter in here, I'd like to find out where you guys are in the world. So just go ahead and tell me where you are in the world so we can see who we've got here. We've got lots of people on. It's always fun to see exactly where you are in the world, and it's fun to see these bars moving in front of me as well. I hope you're excited about today's class, guys. This is one of my favorite topics because everybody thinks it's so complicated, but what you're going to discover is that actually it's a walk in the park. the old subjunctive. All right, then, that looks like it's stabilizing here, these numbers. All right, so more or less, give or take, we've got most of you in the US and Canada, or Spain and Europe, and some of you in the UK and Central America as well. All right, wonderful. Bueno, empezamos entonces. Hoy estamos hablando del subjuntivo. We're going to be talking about the subjunctive today. Sylvia says she had trouble getting rid of the cookie warning. Sorry about that, Sylvia. New data protection laws are causing problems for everybody. Hi, Sylvia in Rotherham. All right, then. So a little bit about these classes then, so you know what's going on. These are regular Spanish workshops that I'm running, and we're focusing on mastering problem areas of Spanish, such as the subjunctive, for example. Have you had problems with the subjunctive before, by any chance? The focus here is to think like a local, not to do what everybody normally does, which is to study rules-based grammar like in textbooks. And the aim of this, of course, is to become a confident, fluent speaker of Spanish. Now, today's class is all about the subjunctive. And my aim, okay, here's the deal. I want to tell you what my aim for the class is, and then I'm going to ask you again at the end, and you can judge me, okay? I want you to tell me at the end whether or not you think I have delivered on my aim, okay? And this is the aim. You will gain a native-like understanding of the subjunctive in Spanish, such that you know exactly when to use it, for what purpose, and without the need for rules. Okay, does that sound good? Does that sound like what you're here for? You can judge me at the end on this, okay? One quick note, we're not going to talk about how to conjugate verbs in this class, because this is something that you can go and look up online, and conjugating the subjunctives, that's kind of the easy bit, really. What's difficult is knowing when to use it. Would you agree? So that's what we're going to focus on in this class, is when and how to use the subjunctive. Like I said, the subjunctive is usually taught with rules. Have you ever seen verb tables like this before? And your teacher will tell you, just go and learn all of these and you'll be fine. Well, how would you like, by the end of this class, you never need these again? How does that sound? That's what we're going to try to deliver. All right, then. A couple of quick things. We're going to go for about an hour here. That's the amount of time that I need to achieve my aim. This is an online class. I can't see you. It's really important you interact. So if I do ask you questions, please do go ahead and type your answer into the chat box. I really do want to hear from you. It's really important. That's also how you learn, by interacting. Okay, and also please turn off your phones and shut down your email. The reason I say this is because I don't want you to waste your time, and we're going to do a lot in this class, but you do need to pay attention. Okay, so teacher lecture over. Very quick thing about me, just so you know who I am. I think many of you here will probably know me, but my name is Olly. I speak 8 languages. I've learned them as an adult, okay? So I'm not someone who's had this all gifted on to me as a child. I've worked all around the world in the field of language learning with the British Council. I have a master's degree in linguistics. I've worked with the Open University, among many other places. I also deliver language workshops all around the world, and these are my favorite things to do. I know we're online today, but I really like to actually be face-to-face with people, telling them about the techniques that I've used to learn these languages. I'm also a best-selling author. You can see here the many books that I've published that are, thankfully, #1 all across Amazon. And so that's a little bit about me, to give you some confidence that you know who I am. Neil says no sound or vision. If you do have any trouble, guys, just please try just logging out and back in again. That should fix it. Hi, Tanya. Hi, June. Hi, Joyce. Hi, Ruth. Great. All right, then. So let's just quickly define the subjunctive so that we're clear what we're talking about. Question for you. Does the subjunctive exist in English? Sí o no? Entra sí o no en la ¿cómo se dice? La cajita ahí para decirme. Does the subjunctive exist in English or not? The answer, of course, is that it does. And this is what it looks like. You might see, I suggest that he study harder. You might see, is it really necessary that we be there? It's not the most common to hear in English, but it does exist, and that's what it looks like. In Spanish, it looks a bit like this. So you would say, yo quiero que tú vayas al banco. Or the more common, shorter form, quiero que vayas al banco. Or, dudo que tenga mi número de teléfono. Okay? Now, don't worry if you don't understand exactly what that means yet. Just have a look at the form of the verbs, okay, so that you can just notice what we're talking about. Is that familiar to you, or does that all sound more or less like your understanding of the subjunctive? Antonia says yes. Kevin says, por supuesto que sí que existe en inglés. Buenas tardes, Catherine. Bienvenida, perdón. Okay, Carol says yes, fantastic. All right then, so here's the thing. Learning all these rules about the subjunctive is not necessary. The subjunctive in Spanish is like a mood that you play with. Have you ever seen Lord of the Rings? It's a great series of films. This is Gandalf. And if you've seen Lord of the Rings, you might know how when Gandalf appears, he creates a certain mood, creates a certain atmosphere. Everything changes. You have to just look at him. He just turns up on this white horse. Well, when you know how to use the subjunctive in Spanish, you can deploy it to evoke a feeling and a mood. So rather than learn rules, what we're going to focus on in this class is to learn to think like a Spanish person. Because when you can think like a Spanish person, you know instinctively when to evoke this mood, when to use a subjunctive. You have no need for rules because you just know when it sounds like it should happen. And that's when you can start to speak Spanish a lot more freely and accurately and sound much more like a native speaker. So here's the main point about this class. Right now, I'm going to show you the only thing that I want you to keep in mind during this class. Throughout most of this lesson today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be asking you, should you use the subjunctive here or not? And through a series of questions and situations, we're going to narrow down our understanding of when that happens. So here's what you have to remember. Certainty and truth. Whenever we're talking about something with certainty or truth to it, we are not going to use the subjunctive. However, as soon as there's any doubt or uncertainty that enters your mind or the mind of the person that you're talking about or the situation, that's when you probably need to use the subjunctive. All right, now we're going to look at a lot of examples in this class of what this means exactly, but the principle is that of certainty and truth and doubt and uncertainty. Here's the image I'd like you to hold in your mind that's going to help you make this more tangible. This road here, this is a lovely picture, isn't it? Wouldn't it be nice to cycle down this road? I don't know where it is. This road is going to represent certainty and truth. All right? We're going to see this image throughout the class, and every time you see this, you're going to think, okay, certainty, truth. As long as you follow this road, you go straight down towards the end, there's no doubt in your mind that you'll reach your destination. That's why this represents truth, okay? However, if you deviate from the road and you go off into the bushes and the trees, then you don't know what's going to happen. And so we're going to use this image to talk about uncertainty and doubt. All right, then, so when we stay on the straight and narrow path, that's certainty and truth. When we veer off into the woods, that's uncertainty and doubt, and that's when we're going to use the subjunctive. Okay, does this metaphor make sense for like as a concept? Remember, I'm not going to ask you to remember any rules. All you need to do is relate the examples we're going to look at to this image and think about whether what we're talking about represents certainty or uncertainty. Are you with me so far? Flint says yes. Everyone else is saying C. Christopher, Dirk, Sylvia, Catherine, Malcolm says very clear. Fantástico. Muy bien. All right then. So let's look at a concrete example of this. Here's our control, if you like, our control sample. If you guys are academics, you'll know what that is. So here's our control. John goes to school. John goes to school. This is a fact. It is the truth. And as a result, this is right down the middle of the road here. When we're saying this sentence, John goes to school, there is no element of doubt whatsoever in our mind. It is a fact. Therefore, this represents certainty. Okay? This is how you'd say that in Spanish. You'd say, Juan va a la escuela. Juan va a la escuela. Now, the key is with the verb. The verb is how we know whether it's true or not. In Spanish, va is not the subjunctive, it's just the regular indicative form of the verb. Okay, Juan va a la escuela. So when we see this in Spanish, we know that there is no sign of the subjunctive. So this is our starting point, all right, guys? This is our control. We're going to start from this beautiful picture of truth right here, and now we're going to look at different cases of when the subjunctive appears. And in each case, we're going to look how it deviates from this pure example, all right? We're going to look at three different things, and this is as technical as we're going to get here, all right? And this is just to give you a picture of what we're going to look at. Three things: commands, requests, and desires, possibility and doubts, and then negation. You don't have to remember these. Remember, this is a rules-free class, but it might help you recognize these things when they come up, all right? So commands, requests, and desires, possibility and doubts, negation. So we're going to start with this: commands, requests, and desires. Okay, are you with me so far? You ready to get started? Okay, here we go. So, tell John to go to school. This is a classic example of something that is simple in English, but in Spanish, we need to use the subjunctive. Why? Well, think about the situation. We're going to tell John to go to school. Or rather, we're saying to someone else, tell John to go to school. Maybe you're speaking to your husband or your wife, and you're saying, tell John to go to school. We've told him to go to school, right? But let me ask you this. Is there any guarantee that he's going to go? Type C or not into the chat box, please. Is there any guarantee that John will actually go to school? You can say, tell John to go to school, but is there any guarantee he's going to go? Nick says no. Flint says no. Kevin says no. Right, exactly. John might decide not to go. He might end up somewhere else altogether. And this is classic uncertainty. And it's this element of uncertainty that yanks us right off the road into the bushes. And from that point, we don't know where we're going to end up. So what you're doing is you're introducing an element of the unknown. And the most helpful way that I've found to think of the subjunctive is this evoking a mood of uncertainty. Because it's that mood that helps you make an instant decision about whether to use a subjunctive or not, which is what frees you up in your conversations. So you don't need to sit there thinking about rules. You just think about this gut feeling of uncertainty. So we can say, tell John to go to school. But there are other variations of this phrase you might use. You might say, I hope John goes to school. I want John to go to school. And you'll notice that at this point, I haven't even started talking about the Spanish. And that is because it doesn't matter what the Spanish is here, because the key I'm trying to get across to you here is that we're focusing on the principle of uncertainty. If I say to you, tell John to go to school, or if I say, I hope John goes to school, or I want John to go to school. In any of these examples, is there any possibility, is there any guarantee that John will go to school? The answer is no. Okay, so we almost don't need to look at the Spanish here, but let's look at it anyway, okay? So let me give you a quick test, and go ahead and type this into the chat box. Again, don't worry if you get this wrong. It doesn't matter. This is for you. It's for your benefit. Nobody knows who you are. Okay, they can see your name, but that's about it. So go ahead and type in, how would you say, tell John to go to school in Spanish? Remember, we're not talking to John here. We're talking to your partner, or you want to utter the words, tell John to go to school. Any ideas how you might say this in Spanish? Okay, so Bridget says, this is good from Bridget. Okay. Okay, Kevin's hit the nail on the head right there. Let's see if I can get Kevin's, oh, it's moving, the chat box is moving too fast and I can't get Kevin's, there we go. So this is Kevin's suggestion. Dile a Juan que vaya a la escuela. All right, then, that's right. So, dile a Juan que vaya a la escuela. If you said diga or dígale, that's okay too. All right, then, what about this one? I hope John goes to school. How would you say this in Spanish? I won't stick around too long to wait for your answers, guys, because we want to keep moving. But trust me, it's going to be helpful for you to have a shot at this. I hope John goes to school. How are we going to say that? Okay, Flint's got it. Christopher's got it. Nick's got it. Fantastic. Yep. So we've got espero que Juan vaya a la escuela. And then lastly, I want John to go to school. I think you're all going to get this, which is, of course, quiero que Juan vaya a la escuela. Right? So why is this happening? Why are we using the subjunctive here? Because in English, it's so simple, right? Tell John to go to school. I hope John goes to school. I want John to go to school. Well, the rules-based approach, how you've almost certainly learned Spanish in the past, says that, okay, you have to learn that if you say espero que, or if you say quiero que, that has to use the subjunctive. And you learn it in this rules-based approach, right? Instead, what I'm asking you to do is simply focus on the fact that it's uncertain. It's off the road. And therefore, there's no need for all these rules because it's just this element of uncertainty. All right, then. So we've looked at number 1, commands, requests, and desires. Let's move on to part 2, possibilities and doubts. So this part is now going to make a lot more sense because we've looked at the first example. Here we've got, it's possible that John goes to school. So, question for you, is John definitely going to school? Are we certain? Well, here, obviously not, right? Because we're even introducing the word possible. So we know it's not guaranteed at all. In this case, what we're doing is we're talking about the possibility. So it should be obvious that John might not go to school. Are you with me? So we're swerving off the road. And so in Spanish, we need the subjunctive. This much is fairly straightforward now, right? That you've got that starting point. So let's broaden this out now. Look at these sentences. Look at these 3 sentences and think about the element of doubt. I want you to tell me what the element of doubt, or just think to yourself, what is the element of doubt like in these sentences? It's possible that John goes to school. I doubt John will go to school. I don't believe John will go to school. In any of these cases, is there any uncertainty that John will go to school? There's loads, right? It's obvious in this case that we can't be sure that John's going to go to school, so we're going to use the subjunctive throughout. So when you first start speaking Spanish and you're translating from English, you know how when you first start learning Spanish, you're kind of speaking in it and you're kind of thinking in English in your head and you're kind of translating to Spanish and it's just very awkward and clunky. you're not conscious of this element of uncertainty, because in English, we just string the words together and it works, right? You just speak like English. But you see, when you start to inhabit a Spanish world and you move towards this approach of really immersing yourself in the language, you develop a finely tuned sensor to the world of certainty and uncertainty when that mood is invoked. You know that feeling. I'm sure you've had this when you're driving down the road, for those of you who drive or have driven. You know, if you like a strong gust of wind and you can feel the car kind of veering off to the side and you slightly panic and you have to pull the car back onto the straight and narrow. It's just like that with Spanish, except you're veering off to the side whenever you become certain that something will definitely happen. So let's look at this in Spanish now. It's possible that John goes to school. So where is the main verb here? Can you type in the verb that is, there are two verbs in this sentence, but which is the main verb here? Go ahead and type that in English for me, please. Which is the main verb in this? The verb that's going to change and tell us that that John might not go to school. Okay, so a lot of you guys here, you're talking about the is, and that is, of course, is one of the verbs, but that's not going to change in this case. Okay, the verb which the thing that we're uncertain about is that John is going to school. Okay, so it goes, which is the verb that might change. Okay, do you see? That's why we're going to say es posible que Juan vaya a la escuela. Okay, let's look at through the same process. So where's the main verb? Where's the verb that's going to change in this sentence? The thing that we are doubting. What's the thing that we are doubting? Tell me where the verb is. Jean says, go. Muy bien. Flint says to go. Gary says to go. Good stuff. Yep. Okay, so that's going to change. So how do we say this in Spanish? I doubt John will go to school. Well, you should be getting expert at this by now. We say, dudo que Juan vaya a la escuela. Last one. I don't believe John will go to school, which is the verb that's going to change, which is the verb that we are uncertain is going to happen. Of course, it is go. So if you want to say, I don't believe John will go to school, we get, no creo que Juan vaya a la escuela. No creo que Juan vaya a la escuela. Okay, are you with me? So let me ask you, which is easier? Learning the rules for which verb takes the subjunctive or which phrase takes the subjunctive, or just learning this concept of certainty? Which is easier? Let me go ahead and tell me. Obviously, we've got more detail. I know we have more details to come. We have more things to get into. But in principle, which is better? Kind of going through whole chapters of your textbooks, memorizing which words take the subjunctive, or just simply thinking this way? Bernadette, Sherry, Nick, they also this concept. Yeah, okay, good. So, see, this is why I love doing these classes, right? Because it is possible to take massive shortcuts through Spanish and save years of study time when you know how native speakers actually think. Because this is how native speakers think, right? No native speakers learn the rules for the subjunctive. If you have any Spanish friends, ask them how the subjunctive works. They have no idea. They just know it instinctively. Okay, is this useful so far? Should we carry on to the third part? Here is negation. Now, negation. Look at these sentences first. Take a second to let these sentences sink in. We've got John didn't go to school. And we've got I deny that John went to school. Now, I've got a question for you, and it's a kind of a tricky question, so take a moment to think about it. What's the difference between these two sentences in terms of their relationship to the truth? Let me ask that question again. What's the difference between these two sentences in terms of their relationship to the truth? Got a bit of heavy thinking to do here for a second, but go ahead and let me know what you think. I will explain it, but I'd just like you to see if you can spot what's going on here. Kelly says this way is better. Textbooks suck. Well, yes. All right, so Antonia said number 1 is a positive statement. Yes. Carol says when I deny, I could be dissembling. Anita says my denying something is not absolute truth. Yeah, you're kind of getting to it. So you've all identified, I think, that that number 1 is a fact, right? John didn't go to school. We know this. This is not up for discussion. It's simply a fact that John didn't go to school today. Now, let's look at the second sentence. I deny. Now, what do I deny? I deny that John went to school. So it's the second part of this sentence that is under dispute. All right, the first part is I deny that. And this is the first clause, if we want to get a bit technical. So I deny something, and that's a positive statement, right? It's a factual statement. I deny that. What am I denying? I'm denying that John went to school. And so it's John went to school, that's up for dispute, because did John go to school? No, he didn't. Okay, we know that. And so this is what swerves us off the road into subjunctive territory. Because it's this statement, John went to school, that's dubious. Compare that again to the first statement. John didn't go to school. There's nothing dubious about that, so we don't use the subjunctive. But here, I deny that John went to school. John went to school is dubious, and so that should tell us that we need to be into the subjunctive. So let's see how this translates into Spanish. John didn't go to school. You guys go ahead and see if you can get this. How do you say John didn't go to school in Spanish? Okay. Okay, interesting point here. Carol and Flint both say, no, sorry, Flint says you could be covering for John. That's interesting. So if I say John didn't go to school, I could be covering for John, right? Yeah, I could. But what you've done, Flint, here is you've hit on an important point, which is that this all happens from the point of view and beliefs of the speaker. So it really actually doesn't matter what the truth is. The fact is that if I say John didn't go to school, and I believe that John didn't go to school, or I want you to believe that John didn't go to school, then that's what determines whether I use the subjunctive, okay? It's up to you in many cases. It depends what mood you want to evoke, right? Okay, a few of you guys are saying Juan no va a la escuela, but remember, this is the past. We're saying John didn't go to school. So can you fix that quickly? Those of you who said Juan no va a la escuela, can you fix that and put it in the past tense? We've got, of course, Juan no fue a la escuela. A statement of fact, right? Okay. Now, how about this one? I deny that John went to school. The verb you need is negar. Negar. N-E-G-A-R. That's the verb you need. Can you make that into a statement for me? I deny that John went to school. Brownie points for those of you who get this right. Nick, you're almost right, but just can you get the conjugation of that verb of negar? Oh, many of you are very, very close, but the answer is niego que Juan fuera a la escuela. Because negar is one of those funny verbs which changes, you conjugate it, so you say niego que Juan fuera a la escuela. Okay, now if you're wondering why it's fuera as opposed to vaya, it's because this is the past tense of the subjunctive. But again, don't worry about that because this comes easily once you get the concept, right? Once you get the concept and you start seeing this, because what I'm going to do later, I'm going to set you some tasks when you go off kind of some homework tasks. And what's going to happen is you'll start to notice it. So don't worry about the exact conjugation of the verb. That comes easily. The important point is that you get why we've done it. Okay, so Juan no fue a la escuela, straight up truth, and then niego que Juan pueda a la escuela. We have to use the subjunctive. All right, so let's look at another example. You might have questions at this point. Let's look at another example. This is going to make it really, really clear, even clearer. So he's not here, and I don't think he's here. If we say he's not here, it's a fact, yes? But if we say I don't think he's here, again, what's the thing that we are negating or denying or whatever here? The thing that we are not trusting or uncertain about is the fact that he's here, okay? Because he's probably not here. So this is what you call a negation of a fact, of something that's not true. Same thing, right? So how would you say this in Spanish? He's not here. Really easy, guys. Go ahead and you should all get this one right. Go ahead and type that in for me. Anita says no double negative here. No. We don't need no double negative there. Of course, we have no está aquí. And if you said él no está aquí, that's fine as well. It's just, you don't always need that in Spanish. Now, what about this one? I don't think he's here. By the way, guys, I'm missing a tilde off the aquí there. Sorry about that, in case any of you spotted it. There should be a little tilde on top of the I of aquí. My apologies. How do you say I don't think he's here in Spanish? You know this is the subjunctive now, right? Because we're denying that he's here. How do you say that? This is a bit trickier, but again, now that you're starting to think about it, if you're finding it a bit hard, that's great because it means you're going to be able to notice this whenever it comes up. Sherry, you're close, but remember we need the subjunctive. A few of you guys are guessing what the subjunctive might be. Dawn says, are you still there? Yes, we are. We have, of course, no creo que esté aquí. No creo que esté aquí. See how that works? Esté is the subjunctive form of estar. Are you with me? Is this making sense? Let me know if this is making sense. Even if this is totally new for you guys, remember, what's important is that after you listen to all of these things, and to these examples we're going through, you should never again be able to put a sentence together in Spanish without thinking, oh, is this true or not? The subjunctive is going to start to come automatically out of your mouth, even if you stumble over the exact conjugations a little bit. This is a game changer right here. Okay, so from this point on, I could carry on and give you a bunch more rules and cases, but I have a suspicion that now you know all you need. Shall we see? Shall we see whether in fact you do know all you need? So remember earlier we said that the way that most teachers teach and the way that most textbooks teach is that they get you to memorize which verbs and which sentences take the subjunctive. And so you go off home and you try to memorize this list of expressions that take the subjunctive. Remember we were talking about that? Yeah? Well, I reckon that I can show you a whole bunch of expressions, and you will be able to tell me perfectly which ones take the subjunctive and not. Will you take me up on this test? John says, Ojalá que Juan vaya a la escuela. Yeah, well, we should all hope he goes, of course. All right then, so here we go. 6. Well, what do we call these? Kind of set phrases, sentence openers, expressions, which you might have learnt in a textbook. I'd like you to please, in the comment box, please just type in the ones that you think do take the subjunctive. Okay, don't go through. It's going to be very messy if we're all typing in different things. So tell me the ones that you think do take the subjunctive. We've got number 1, es probable que. You can just type in the numbers. So if you think 1, 2, and 3 take the subjunctive, then just type in 1, 2, 3. So we've got es probable que, which means it's probable that. We've got es mejor que, which is it's better that, or it would be better that. We've got es obvio que, it's obvious that. We've got es evidente que, it's evident, self-evident that. Number 5, we've got es importante que, it's important that you do something. And number 6, más vale que, which is it would be better, or I hope you do. So remember, we're looking for which ones represent truth and certainty. That's how you tell the difference. So based on that, what I recommend you do here is look for the ones that you think represent truth and certainty, and then it's the others which take the subjunctive. And in the box, I'd like you to tell me which ones take the subjunctive. And it's not a trick question, so it's not all of them. As you're looking through these, think about what's going through your mind when you are saying these words. Think about how certain you are. For example, the number 1, we're saying, es probable que. You're saying, it's probable that. I'm fairly sure, but obviously you're not certain, right? So as all of you are guessing, number 1 is the subjunctive, okay? But what about the others? If you move on and you say something else, which ones represent real certainty in your mind? Okay, Eva, Tanya, Steve, Bridget, you're all getting it. Fantastic. Good job, guys. So, number 1 takes a subjunctive. It's probable que. It's probable that, not certain. Okay, so that's obviously going to be the subjunctive. Number 2, es mejor que. It would be better that. Takes the subjunctive because it would be better, but it's far from certain. Yeah, it's better that it would be better that you study a little bit for your exam, but I don't know if you will, right? So it's not certain. Number 3, and remember, this is where, earlier I mentioned about the what's in the mind of the speaker. This is where you have to start thinking about that. If you're the person speaking and you say, it's obvious that, es obvio que, lo que sea, es obvio que, you're saying, it's obvious. Are you certain? Yes, you are. No subjunctive there. Because in your mind, you think, well, it's obvious. There's no doubt there. Number 4, es evidente. It's evident that it rained earlier today. I can see all the water on the street. It's evident. It's obvious. No subjunctive there. Number 5, es importante que. It's important that you study for your exam. But do I know that you're going to study? I don't, do I? I have no idea. You might not. So it's just the subjunctive. And then lastly, más vale que. Again, this is another way of saying it would be better that. One would hope that. Again, not certain. So that takes the subjunctive. Okay. Now I've seen all of your answers there. Looking back through these, David, Leslie, Joyce, Pat, Bridget, you're all getting it right. And you didn't have to learn a single rule, unless you guys already memorized all of this stuff before, in which case, there should be, I don't know why you'd be here. Isn't that great? Isn't that interesting how me talking you through the concept of this from a native speaker, and I'm not a native speaker, but this is a native speaker perspective. Isn't it interesting how straight away you're able to then guess this entire list of Spanish phrases and which ones take the subjunctive? What do you think? Is this good? You enjoying this? You could have spent weeks memorizing these in in textbooks. Kevin says, isn't it certain that studying is important? Well, Kevin, that's not okay. So Kevin asks, isn't it certain that studying is important? So that comes from question number 5, right? Es importante que. That's not exactly what we're saying. Okay, we could say estudiar es importante, but that's something different. There we're saying, if we said, let me type this into the box here so you can see it. If we said estudiar es importante, that's where we're saying studying is important. But what we're saying here, Kevin, is that es importante que estudies. We're saying it's important that you study. We're not saying studying is important, we're saying it's important that you study. Do you see the difference? Now, John says context seems very important. John, that's precisely the point. And this is why I'm going to go into pains to say it depends what's in the mind of the speaker. Because you can choose, two native speakers of Spanish might say, one might use the subjunctive, one might not. It depends what mood they want to evoke. Remember what we talked about earlier? Yeah? So context is extremely important, but much of that is in your mind. You create that context. You're the speaker. That's the luxury that you have. Okay? All right then. So we've looked at commands, requests, and desires. We've looked at possibility and doubt. We've looked at negation. Now, there are some other situations which don't fall neatly into these categories. I will grant you that. But luckily, I've already designed this class in such a way that I think you will already know what to do. So, even if you're not sure exactly what the expression is, that shouldn't matter. Let's have a look at this little exchange. A says, when shall we go to the cinema? And B says, whenever you want. When should we go to the cinema? When do you want to go see a film? Yeah. Whenever you want. The question in Spanish. ¿Cuándo vamos al cine? ¿Cuándo vamos al cine? Guesses, please, for the answer. Now, if you take a hint, well, then you should notice that here, when we're saying whenever you want, is there anything certain about that? Do I know when you want to go to the cinema? Do I have any idea when it is that you actually want to go? Okay, April, Nick, Flint, David, Elske, right answers there. Okay, getting a mix of, there are a couple of possible ways of saying this. Catherine says, my Spanish friends argue about when to use the subjunctive. Well, yeah, exactly. Okay, a lot of you guys are really on point here. That's great. So we say, cuando quieras. Cuando quieras. So remember, this is the subjunctive here. Normally, you would say, tú quieres, with an E. Tú quieres. But what we can do is just flick that letter from an E to an A. It makes it the subjunctive. I mean, don't worry if you don't know this. It doesn't matter. You can learn this in a very short space of time. It's not learning the conjugation that matters, because you can do that quickly when you understand why it works. Because I promise you guys, you're going to go away from this class, you're going to see this everywhere. Cuando quieras, it goes from you want to whenever you want. How cool is that? It's that easy. Let's have a look at another example. Where do you want to eat? Wherever. You're not saying wherever you want. You're saying wherever it may be. I don't know, wherever. Where do you want to eat? ¿Dónde quieres comer? Guesses, please, for an appropriate answer. I'll give you a hint. It's not donde quieras. But it could be. That would be an appropriate answer. You get a point. You get a point if you mention it. Flint says, "Da igual." That's a good answer, Flint. But it's not the one I wanted you to give, because you're avoiding the verb there, right? Okay, April, good one. Donde sea. Wherever. Es would be it is, right? Donde sea. Donde sea, wherever it may be. You see? We just flick the verb into the subjunctive, and straight away you're saying, oh, I don't mind, wherever. Can you see the uncertainty there? Right? The fact that we don't know where it is that we're going to eat or where you want to eat, that's what takes us firmly off that road of truth that we looked at earlier. Now, in this case, this actually is very equivalent to the English words wherever, whoever, however, whenever, whatever. So you can, whenever you say that, these words here, wherever, whoever, whenever you say any of these words, you're basically saying, I don't care, it doesn't matter. Right? So whenever you want to use any of these words, it's handy to remember, no, just use the subjunctive. And the image you've got to say, well, the image I like to remember is I just have a flick of that verb into the subjunctive, and I'm expressing I'm just throwing out possibilities. Isn't it beautiful the way this works? I love this stuff. This is why Spanish is so cool. You just have so much control. And it's this mood that I was talking about earlier. You can evoke this mood of uncertainty or possibility that says so much by itself. You can play with this in your Spanish. And it is really, mastering the subjunctive is the ultimate form of expression in the Spanish language. So I encourage you to go out and have fun with it. At first, you might get it a bit wrong, but that will raise your awareness so that as you go off and read Spanish, listen to Spanish, speak Spanish, and live Spanish, you'll start to refine how you use it over time. Okay, I want to give you a couple of real-world examples so you can actually to kind of try and bridge the gap, because we're kind of in classroom format here, aren't we? But I want to give you a couple of examples to kind of bridge the gap so that as you go out into the real world, you can actually see it being used. Okay, can you see this? This little phrase here, con quien sea. What does that mean? And can you see the subjunctive? Tell me what the subjunctive is there and what this phrase means. It says, Estados Unidos, this is not the European Union, guys, by the way, for those of you in Spain. This is Estados Unidos, the United States, trabajará con quien sea electo presidente de México. So the United States will work with whoever is elected president of Mexico. This is a kind of an old article, but you get the point, right? So you see that being used there? Pat, Kevin, Declan, you're all guessing. Good stuff. Now, how about this one? This is an article about Uber. Now, this is a slightly more advanced one for those of you guys who are sitting there thinking, oh, I know all this stuff already. Have a look at this headline. A donde sea que viajes, hay un Uber esperándote. Now, see if you can decode this one. We've got two subjunctives in the first clause. A donde sea que viajes. This is really, for those of you who like to geek out on Spanish grammar, this is great. Let's see who, can you give me an English translation of this one? A donde sea que viajes. Can you give me a, okay, Nick says, okay, Nick, that's good, but can we give it a more kind of poetic feel in English? Because that's kind of the idea of this. See, I would say wherever you may go. You know how we say that in English? We say wherever you may go. David says, with us, whithersoever thou travelest. David, that is the best comment I've ever had. That is the best comment I've ever had on one of these classes. Golden star. Yeah, I'd say wherever you may go. Dawn says to wherever you travel. Exactly. See how this works? I promise you, you're gonna spot this everywhere now. We've got a donde sea, so it's to wherever, and we've got viajes, you may travel. Because normally if you want to say you travel, we say tú viajas with an AS at the end. But here we're saying viajes. ES. Catherine says, is it wherever you travel? Yeah. I guess it's kind of, translation is not a perfect art form, is it? There's many ways of translating it. I would not be a translator myself. It's a thankless task. All right. So I'm going to give you a quick test. See how you've done, okay? And then we'll finish after this. Hopefully, this will show you just how far you've come. All right. Now I want you to, with this, guys, if you're all typing stuff in at once, it's going to be really difficult to keep track. So please, I'd like you to put the numbers in. So number 1, number 2, number 3, and your answer. Put them all in the same box. So number 1, mis padres me dicen que ir a la iglesia. My parents tell me to go to church. Please type in the missing verb. It may or may not be in the subjunctive, so you've got to think about that. Number 2, espero que mi amigo Juan me visitar pronto. This is, I hope that my friend John visits me soon. And then number 3, estoy seguro de que la manzana está podrida. So here we're saying, I'm sure that the apple is rotten. So 1, 2, and 3 in the chat box, please. Let's see who can get it. If you can type them all in the same message, guys, that would help me to go through and actually spot who's writing what. I'll give you a couple of seconds to do this. Again, if you're finding this tricky, then I just want you to think, go back to the concept of certainty or uncertainty. In these statements, am I certain or uncertain about what's going on? And if you're uncertain, then you're going to use a subjunctive. Okay? I can see that Anita's got this right, although she's missing an accent on number 3. But I'll forgive you because sometimes keyboard, you don't know where the accents are on these keyboards are all different these days. Anyway, so mis padres me dicen que vaya a la iglesia. My parents tell me to go to school. But, you know, are they certain I'm going to go to school? No, they just tell me, so it's a subjunctive. Number 2, I'm in hospital and espero que mi amigo Juan me visite pronto. I hope my friend Juan visits me soon. He might not, though. I'm uncertain, so I have to use the subjunctive. And then lastly, estoy seguro de que la manzana está podrida. Podrida is rotten. So I'm sure that the apple is rotten. No subjunctive there. Okay, so anyone that had subjunctive for number 3, slap on the wrist. Most of you guys seem to get that, which is great. Because here we're saying I'm sure, right? So when you're sure, no subjunctive. All right then. Last one, quickly answers in all at the same time, please. Number 4, dudo que Olly llegar hoy. I doubt that Olly arrives today. Number 5, sí. Mi equipo favorito, ganar. This is, my favorite team is winning. My favorite team is winning. Number 6, espero que él me comprar chocolate. I hope that he buys me chocolate. Numbers 4, 5, and 6, all in the box, please. Let's see how you do. Number 5 is, this is present tense here, guys, by the way, just to be clear, number 5. My favorite, you're watching the World Cup right now, and your favorite team is winning. Okay, Nick, just be careful with where you're putting the accents on your word. Okay, Sylvia's got it right. Kevin's got it right. Sherry's got it right. Okay, good stuff. So I doubt that Olly's arriving today. Dudo que Olly llegue hoy. Llegue is the subjunctive. I doubt that he's arriving today. I'm really not sure. Has to be the subjunctive. Yes, my favorite team is winning. Mi equipo favorito gana. No subjunctive because it's true. And then espero que él me compre chocolate. I hope he buys me chocolate. Will be nice. But we can't be sure. So that's why we say compre, subjunctive. I'm very impressed with you guys. You've got it really good. So now you can test me. So, to summarize then, the subjunctive, it's a mood you can evoke to convey the fact that you're leaving the realm of objective truth and certainty. Okay. Now, although there are, I'll be honest with you, there are some other occasions you might use the subjunctive, and we've not gone into every little detail or exception here. What you've learned here will enable you to get the subjunctive right virtually every time. Okay, so don't underestimate the power of this. What is the most important thing is that now you understand the underlying concept that native speakers think when they speak. You are now thinking about the subjunctive like a native speaker. And I'd say that just with this alone, you're 80% of the way there. So I told you, you will get a native-like understanding of the subjunctive in Spanish, such that you know exactly when to use it, for what purpose, and without the need for rules. So go ahead and tell me, you guys judge me. It's really useful feedback, actually, because if I didn't do a good job, then it's useful for me to know so I can improve it. So do go ahead and tell me whether or not I achieved my aim. As you carry on with your studies in Spanish, you will learn a few more exceptions. You'll tighten up your verb conjugations over time, but you now know the most important stuff. So hopefully you're happy with this. David says this is really helpful. This is very helpful, really. Thank you, David. Nick says A+. Dallas says time will tell. Well, it will indeed. Nick says muchas gracias. No, my pleasure. So this way of teaching, which is showing you the most important stuff, this is the important stuff that I've learned about Spanish from my experience of going from an absolute beginner to pretty fluent in the language. And learning in this kind of way from someone who's done it is the best way to learn Spanish, because you just get to take advantage of someone else's blood, sweat, and tears, basically, so that you can focus on only the most important concepts in Spanish and just ignore the stuff that doesn't matter. And this class here is really just a sample of everything that I do in Spanish, everything that goes on inside I have a special Spanish community that I run that is especially for intermediate level learners, helping intermediate level learners kind of break through and to become fluent in Spanish. So that most likely means you. So I'd like to do a question and answer session at the end here. But first, I want to just take a minute to tell you about this community, because the reason is that if you enjoyed this class today, then the chances are that you would, if you would like more training like this to master Spanish grammar and all other kind of aspects of grammar, then it might be ideal for you. So I'm very happy to spend a minute to tell you about this if you like. But I don't have to. If you'd rather just go straight to the Q&A, we can do that too. So maybe you can just go ahead and type in the box and let me know whether you'd like me to tell you about this. Because like I say, it is very much more of what you've had today. Dallas says, please tell. Okay. All right then. I will make it as quick as I can. So it's called the Fluent Spanish Academy. And it's a private community that's run by me personally for people who are stuck at an intermediate level of Spanish to help them break through and become fluent in the language. I'll tell you about what's inside and then give you details of a special bonus package that I've also got reserved here just for people on this live class. There is a lot of stuff inside the academy, but there are a few major things that you get as an academy member. the main focus of the academy is this, which is that at intermediate level, in order to reach fluency, you need to immerse yourself as much as possible in Spanish because there's a lot to learn. But if you live abroad, or if you've been surrounded by Spanish speakers, you may have noticed that actually it's quite hard to learn from stuff that is intended for native speakers. Just simply immersing yourself in any Spanish you can find is not very efficient. And this is where the Fluent Spanish Academy comes in, because it's pitched right here in the sweet spot between intermediate and advanced level. Okay, so that's what we do. What I created in the Fluent Spanish Academy is training that is pitched right there in that gap, so that when you spend time studying, you can actually learn and you don't get overwhelmed and frustrated. So this is a quick overview. This is inside the members area that you can see here. This is all the material that we have. It's lots of different training on different parts of Spanish. Okay, we separate it out into different skill areas. So when you first join, what you do is you take this Academy starter course. And this is where I take you through the intermediate stage in Spanish. Because we see many people, when they reach the intermediate stage, they're still studying like a beginner. And that's why they don't progress. Because when you get to intermediate level, you have to start doing things very differently. And so in this starter course, what I do here is it's like a crash course in what it means to study at the intermediate level. And this is really where my experience of learning 8 languages really comes into its own, because I can tell you from a lot of experience exactly what happens when you reach the intermediate stage. You start with this so that you understand the task ahead. Then we have our Fluent Spanish classes. These are audio classes so that you can listen to them wherever you are, in the kitchen, in the gym, in the car, and they come with lesson notes. And what these are most members, well, one of the most popular parts of the academy, because every week when you join, you get a new lesson. And it's a lesson between me and Angela, who's the fantastic Spanish teacher that I work with the academy. And we have conversation on different aspects of Spanish. And what we do specifically with these classes is we focus on giving you real Spanish, the kind of Spanish that you hear in the street. The difference is when you hear it in the street, there's no pause button. But with these classes, not only do we carefully construct these dialogues so you can learn the real Spanish that you're going to hear on the street, but we then break it down, we tell you everything that happens, and we give you complete transcripts and lesson notes so you can go back and study them. Many people report studying with these classes and then immediately going out into the street and hearing somebody use the expressions that they've learned in the class. So they're very, very effective. You also have listening comprehension training. Now, I mentioned the pause button earlier, the pause button that doesn't exist in real life. Well, you remember the little diagram I showed you earlier about the sweet spot just between intermediate and advanced level? Well, this material here, the listening comprehension training, is a huge library of authentic conversations in Spanish that we've recorded and transcribed word for word. So what you can do with this is immerse yourself in real Spanish conversations on useful topics, and they're not too long. They're kept under they're about 3 to 5 minutes each. So you can immerse yourself in real conversation in Spanish and then go back through the transcripts so that you can hear what you see and see what you hear. And this helps you to fill in all the gaps in your listening comprehension. So you can figure out what sounds you're not hearing, which in a very short space of time allows you to start to understand native speakers much better, so you can have more successful conversations. That's the listening comprehension training. My favorite part is actually of the whole academy are our short stories. Now, in this class, we've looked at the subjunctive. But one of the questions you might have is, well, how do I kind of go out and actually practice that subjunctive afterwards? Because after all, if I just pick up a novel in Spanish, it's too hard and I get frustrated. Well, in the Fluent Spanish Academy, we have a huge library of short stories that are written specifically to focus on one grammar point at a time. So this story here is called Líder, that's the name of the story, and it's written with a big focus on the subjunctive. So you simply read the short story, and they're all great stories as well. So you read and enjoy these short stories. In the short story, you're going to see lots of examples of the subjunctive being used. You've got the audio book that comes with every single story. So you read the story, you listen along, and what you're going to find is you start to learn this grammar naturally because you're simply enjoying the story you're seeing lots of examples of the subjunctive at your level, and it starts to sink in and become automatic. You're not overwhelmed with difficult words. You're not faced with 300 pages to read. It's pure fun and enjoyment. And the side benefit is you get to learn grammar naturally. We also have these great exercises that you then complete where we remove the verbs. So after finishing the story, you go back and you kind of fill out the verbs in the correct form that you've seen. So you actually get to activate that knowledge as well. The live training directory is where you get lots and lots of what you have just had in this class. So we have lots of training on things like, for example, the past tenses. How do you know which past tense to choose in Spanish? Is it yo daba or yo di? Is it yo hablaba or yo hablé? We talk about the subjunctive. We talk about how to choose between ser and estar. El es or el está. And we have a huge back catalogue of training. So as soon as you join, you get immediate access to all the classes that we've recorded like this. This one, for example, here on your screen is from back in December 2016, where I talk about memory training. So I show you how to tricks for memorizing new vocabulary and placing them into your long-term memory. So you get a huge back catalogue of these classes, which by themselves are just hugely powerful. And with each of these, you're also given study packs so that you can dive deeper into the topic from the lesson. There's lots of other stuff as well. We have recommended resources and Spanish movies and TV series and things like that. But the stuff I've just shown you is the main side of it. We also have a special Facebook group, the Fluent Spanish Academy Facebook group, and this is where every week we have live videos from Angela, who I mentioned earlier, who gives you she posts idioms into the group where she'll teach you idioms like, for example, buscarle tres pies al gato. Any of you guys know what that means? So she'll tease you with the idiom, and then what she'll do, she'll come in and she'll record a live video where she explains what the idiom is, because I know that everybody loves to learn idioms in Spanish. And so every week in the Facebook group, we teach you new idioms, which is super useful, and you can start to use these in your Spanish all the time. Okay? So the material really is only part of this, because with all the activity and training in the Academy, I am there every day guiding you, making sure that you know what you're doing with your studies, whether it's answering your questions in the forums or giving you detailed feedback on your videos that you upload of you speaking Spanish, which people do sometimes. I'm there for you along with Angela. And whenever you have a question, whatever you get stuck on, you can get answers from me right away. And there's also lots of other fantastic experienced Spanish learners in the group, so you can concentrate on studying to become fluent in Spanish rather than just getting stuck. Okay, so there's so much really here that it's I'm only able to give you a very brief overview. But inside the Academy, you're joining a huge community of other people just like you around the world, dedicated to becoming fluent in Spanish, keeping each other motivated, answering questions, holding you accountable to your study plan. We even have people forming little Spanish meetup groups. With this community alone, you're going to feel the amazing power of having other people to support and encourage you, and you're going to feel more motivated to study than ever before. And I'm sure you know what happens when you get very motivated. It's when you learn the fastest. So needless to say, I am very proud of what we've created here. Many people do get frustrated with intermediate Spanish, and we've had people who join us, who are on the cusp of giving up, but they join the Academy and they suddenly find that actually it is possible to keep progressing, to keep learning, and quickly. And it can, I don't want to make it too overblown, but we have many people whose lives have completely changed as a result of being able to speak Spanish. But it's this combination here of the community, the motivation, the materials, the expertise from your tutors that really make all the difference. To give you a quick taste of what other people experience, Mike said that he loves getting weekly lessons and having digestible chunks of information and audio easily available. So if you have these problems in Spanish, if you freeze up when you speak because you don't know the best way to reply, if you can't understand natural Spanish spoken by real people or in groups because you don't know how to practice listening the right way, if you can't speak with accurate grammar like the subjunctive because you haven't learned the natural way like I showed you today, if you're frustrated by a lack of expression in Spanish because you're not learning to speak the way that people really speak, then the Academy is designed for you. Now, I'm sure you're wondering about the price of the Academy. Obviously, this is a bit different from the usual model of hiring a teacher by the hour. And if you're an independent learner, then in fact, it ends up being far more valuable because, of course, you have access to the Academy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And as you also know, if you do take private lessons, you'll know that they can very easily cost you $30, $40, $50 an hour, which can be, what's that work out? About £400 a month, $5,000 a year. That really does add up very, very quickly. And so that's why the Fluent Spanish Academy really is unbeatable value at the price that it is. We have two options for membership. It's monthly and annual. The cost is $35 a month, which for those of you in the UK is about, I think it's about £27 a month, 30 euros a month, around about that. It's basically the price of one lesson with a teacher per month. And for that price, you get all of the things that I've told you about today. Or there's an annual option where you can get 3 months free, plus some very cool bonuses that I'll tell you about in a minute. So it's $35 a month, or you can get 3 months free, and it's $315 US for the year. We're also very transparent at the Academy. There are no contracts. You can cancel anytime. And this price is also guaranteed for life as well. So if we do put prices up in the future, you're going to get to keep this price. There's also some, like I said, some great bonuses, and I'll tell you about those in just a second. But to put this in perspective, I mentioned earlier that the monthly price is about the same as the cost of one lesson, although if you do hire professional tutors, it can be considerably more than that. The annual option for the Academy, if you do take the yearly option, it works out at about 86 cents a day, which is about, for those of you in the UK, is about 69p. So hopefully you'd agree with me that for $1 a day, in order to transform your Spanish, that it is good value. It's at least worth a shot. And you know, so often people who followed me for a while with my work on my blog and my podcast, they've said, Ollie, I've been tempted by the Academy for a long time, but I've never actually taken the plunge. Well, here's the thing. One of the things that I've learned about language learning with my experience is that time can be both your enemy and your friend with language learning. And you know what it's like to be at that intermediate plateau in Spanish, to feel like you're not really progressing. Well, the worst thing you can do is to let time pass without really studying with intention, because it's almost as if your brain muscles go backwards, like if you don't exercise for a while. On the other hand, if you just keep it up and you study with intention and you study the right things with the right material, with the right people around you, which is what you get in the Academy, time does so much of the work for you. You just have to keep going. So that's why I've decided to add a little incentive for you, just to try and convince you that now is better than 6 months from now, because I believe with all my heart that is true. So for those of you who wish to join today, the first bonus that you're going to get is a 30-day subjunctive study pack. Now, I know that we've just been looking at the subjunctive, and I'm sure many of you will want to put this into practice and actually go out there and study and try to let this all sink in. Well, with this 30-day study pack, what you get is a short story, a set of short stories actually written in Spanish that focus on the subjunctive. You're going to get, the story is fantastic. I won't go into it now, but you've got lots of examples of the subjunctive. And so what you do here is you go through and you read this story, and every day you have a task, which is to go through and to try to guess whether the verb is subjunctive or not. You do this a little bit every day, and I think this is only 5-10 minutes a day, something like that. But after the end of the month, I guarantee you, you will have completely mastered the concept of the subjunctive, because you have been working at it every day, just a little bit. Okay, so this is the bonus that you'll get today if you enroll in the class. That's the first bonus. Secondly, and this is hugely valuable, you're also going to get my complete collection of Spanish short story books, which I've written for beginner and intermediate levels. These are bestsellers on Amazon around the world. You're going to get 3 short story books, each with 8 long short stories. Long short stories, a bit of a contradiction. 3 short stories in 3 chapters each. And you're also going to get the audiobooks that come with them. And these are worth almost $100 by themselves, so that you can spend your time immersed in stories at your level. So you can learn that grammar naturally, you can grow your vocabulary, you can improve your listening comprehension with the audiobooks. There's also a third bonus, and this is available, this is restricted only to the annual members, I'm afraid, and you'll understand why in a second. But if you take the annual membership, if that's something that you'd like to do, if you'd like to take that, then you're also going to get a free consultation call with me, which you can use anytime in the next 12 months. And what we're going to do is we're going to jump on Skype, and we're going to talk through your Spanish learning history, look at the problems you've been having, different things that you've tried, and really set you up with a plan for exactly how to reach the next stage of Spanish. These I hardly ever do, but I really enjoy speaking to new members. So if you do join, then you will get that free consultation call with me. You don't have to use it right away. So I actually suggest that you spend a month or 2 with the materials in the academy, because what's going to happen is you're going to get a fantastic boost in your Spanish just from joining the academy. So you can save this for a couple of months, and then we can talk later when you're at a plateau at the next stage, which is even more exciting. Okay, so that is for the first 10 people only, and it is for annual members. So those are available today. So a quick reminder of everything you get in the academy. You get the live training with me and the big directory of classes. You get the community forums in our Facebook group. You get the weekly fluent Spanish classes, the listening comprehension training, the short stories. And this is also for you whatever variety of Spanish you're learning. I know sometimes people say, well, I want to learn the Spanish from Costa Rica or from Argentina. Look, the truth is that Spanish, wherever you go, is 99% the same. Okay, there are regional variations, obviously, but those regional variations are easy to learn once you are literate in Spanish, once you have a solid grasp of the language. The worst thing you can do is just kind of ignore stuff because you're kind of focused on one dialect. We have material in the academy in all kinds of different dialects. We have listening comprehension training from Argentina, from Mexico, from Colombia, from Spain. So we do have all of that, but it's a big mistake people make to restrict the material they use because they're focused on one dialect. What we do in the academy is we turn you into a literate, educated speaker of Spanish, and from that base, you're able to go on and master any dialect that's relevant for you. So these are all the things you get, plus all of these bonuses. The annual offer plus all of those bonuses and the free consultation course actually ends up being worth far more than the annual membership itself. So this is what's on offer today. There are no contracts. You can cancel any time, but it gets even better because you lucky people, you are watching this class right now here in the end of June, in the middle of a trial promotion that we've been running, where you can get something very special, and we've never done this before, and it's probably, I don't know exactly when it's going to end, but it's soon. Not only, well, this is actually instead of, you can still sign up for the monthly if you prefer, but for the annual membership, what we're actually offering at the moment is a lifetime membership. So not annual, but lifetime, never expires, for one payment of only $297, which is actually cheaper than the annual membership. Again, I think this is probably going to expire in the next week, although I'm not sure. But if you join from this class today, you get that plus all of the bonuses and the consultation call that I was telling you about. Okay, so if this is something that you'd like to join, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a button on the screen, and it should say Vamos. So you can click that button, and that will take you to a place where you can choose the membership option that you'd like, and you can sign up. And alternatively, you can open up a new browser window, and make sure it's a new browser window, otherwise you'll lose me here. And you can go to the URL that you can see on your screen there, which is iwillteachyoualanguage.com, which is my website, one of my websites, /class offer. Okay, iwillteachyoualanguage.com /class offer. So if the button doesn't work for whatever reason, you can open up a new browser window and go to iwillteachyoualanguage.com /class offer. And that is available for you right now. I'd like you to think to yourself what it is worth to you to be speaking Spanish in the near future. For many people, it's worth very much indeed. Don't do this alone. Let me help you. Come and join the community to keep you motivated. This is everything you need to break through the intermediate plateau and become fluent in Spanish without any more worry about whether you're doing it the right way. Judy says, I'm thrilled with the Fluent Spanish Academy. I love the grammar training, and the Facebook group is a great place for sharing information. Courtney is one of our success stories. She said, I learned more in 9 months than in 6 years at school. And she emailed me recently to tell me, she wrote me a long email about what it's like to be fluent in Spanish. And she was very, very happy. Robert said, 16 months ago, I could only speak with somebody for 30 seconds in Spanish, but thanks to Olly, I can now have a conversation for an hour plus in Spanish. So if this is you, if your vocabulary is okay, but you lack precision and you overuse the same words, if you struggle to understand when you're reading because you can't find the material that's suitable, if you're losing motivation because you're trying to do it all on your own, if you can't find material that's just right for me, because to be honest, it's mostly not out there, or if you've begun to doubt whether you're even capable of speaking Spanish fluently, which is the worst thing of all because it's inside everybody. You just need to be shown how to do it. If this is you, in whatever sense, then the Academy is for you. So we'll take questions in just a moment. So if you do have any questions about the Academy or just about Spanish in general, or we'll try and keep questions to the subjunctive, I think, since that was the topic of today. But go ahead and type those questions in. Remember, these bonuses with the subjunctive study pack, the 3 short story books, the 3 audio books are available for monthly members. And then all of that, all those bonuses, plus the free consultation call with me, and plus the special lifetime membership, which will almost certainly not be available next time I do a class like this, then that is also available for you. That's just a one-time payment of $297. That's US. It works out about £220, I think, and about 250 euros, there or thereabouts. You can click the button on the screen. That will take you to a place where you can enroll. And you can also open up that new browser window and go to iwillteachyoualanguage.com/class offer. So there we go. All right, guys. So I hope that is giving you all the information you need, but don't hesitate to ask me to type in any questions that you might have. And I'm going to go through here, and if we have questions, I will make sure I won't leave until we've gone through all of them. All right, then, let's see what we got. Okay, so a lot of you guys saying, sure, go ahead, tell me. Okay, well, hopefully that's done the trick. And he does a dímelo. Muy bien. Joyce says her battery is dying. Oh dear, sorry about that, Joyce. David says, can I upgrade my current membership to lifetime? Yes, you can. David, if you are a monthly member or an annual member, then yeah, you can upgrade to lifetime, absolutely. All you need to do is I'm assuming you're a monthly member. If that's the case, then you just need to upgrade to the lifetime and just send me an email and I will cancel the monthly payments. That's no problem whatsoever. Nick says, how long is the monthly offer available? Well, Nick, the monthly option is available all the time. You can join at any time with the monthly options, but with the bonuses here, that's just here for this webinar. David says, I'm annual. Okay, Wendy says the purchase page doesn't work. We tested it earlier, Wendy. It should be fine. It might be best just to try to open it up in a new browser window, and that will hopefully work. Let me just check that for a second over here. So I can see we have some payments coming through. So it is working, Wendy. So perhaps you could just try again in the new browser window, and that should work for you. you can copy the URL across to a new window, and that might help. Let me know if it doesn't. David says I'm annual. Okay, David, it might be best to. I mean, if you're David, it's up to you. If you're happy to upgrade to the lifetime, and then we can. It really depends, because obviously, if you've just recently joined as an annual member, then we don't want you to pay again. So it might be best just to drop me an email, and we can work that out over email. Wendy says I've done that several times. Not work. Wendy, is that for the monthly or the annual that you're looking at? Nick says I'm in a public place and I wouldn't like to put the credit card info right now. Is it possible to keep the browser open and pay in a few hours? Yeah, Nick, that's absolutely fine. I mean, that's no problem. Just keep if you select the option that you'd like, and then just keep it open, and then yeah, that should still work, providing that you do keep that open. Okay, Campbell says, are the short story books a physical book or a PDF that's emailed? Are the audio resources a CD or emailed as an audio file? So Campbell, these are digital. Okay, so the physical books are available on Amazon, but it's difficult for me to ship out the physical book. So what I do is I provide you the PDFs. I also give you the Kindle version in case you're a Kindle user, so you can read them on your iPhone or your iPad or your Kindle. And you also get the audio files as MP3s. So basically, you have them available instantly. So what happens is when you enroll, what we do is we automatically apply them to your account, and then you'll find those inside a bonus, the bonus area inside the member area. So you get those automatically. Okay. Wendy says annual lifetime offer. Wendy, sometimes what happens is if your bank doesn't like sometimes the bank doesn't like single transactions of that size, so it might block it. You could try a different card if you have one. But I think I can see the payment here. So I think what's probably best is that you might need to call your bank and check that, I'm afraid, or else try with a different card. But it's at your end, I'm afraid, and not at our end. But I won't mention this anymore because obviously we're online here. But if you do have trouble, then please drop me an email and we'll make sure to sort that out for you. And Nick says, does this program support learners through C1? So Nick, the material in the Academy will get you to C1, but I wouldn't like to make the claim that it takes you beyond C1, simply because what happens is once you get to that C1 level, the most honest advice I could give you would be to say that you need to start using authentic material. Okay, so because at C1 level, you can understand most things, right? You can have very, very fluent conversations. You can understand most of what you read. So really the only thing you need to do is to start reading authentic material. So if you're kind of at a C1 level, then what you need to do is just to start using authentic material. And Juliet says, is it possible to replay the webinar? I'll send, yeah, Juliet, if you've registered, which I guess you have because you're here, then I'll send you a replay out a little bit later on. I'm not sure. Tomorrow morning tomorrow at the latest, I think we'll send you a replay. Yeah. Yeah, so Nick, it depends what level you are at right now. If you're already at C1, then no, this is not for you. I would have to recommend instead that you start to use authentic material as much as possible. Nick says, thank you. I think I'm at B2, so I will go monthly until I feel comfortable with C1. Yeah, that sounds like it's probably the best thing for you, Nick. Sometimes it's kind of borderline, you know, like you can try the authentic material, but it's just not quite. It's a bit too frustrating because it's out of reach. So you can kind of supplement it with some stuff that's a bit more approachable. What you'll probably find, Nick, is the listening comprehension training. You'll probably find that really useful because it's authentic conversations. But these levels, often people, it's very rare that you find someone who is going to B2 across the board in speaking and writing and reading, listening. So you probably have stronger and weaker parts of your Spanish, So do you have any more questions? Any subjunctive questions, guys? Or was the class so successful that there's no need for any questions on the subjunctive? Very happy to stay on and answer as many questions as I can. David says subjunctive question. Okay, great. Fire away. Okay, so David's asking about creo que versus no creo que. Okay. Okay, just waiting for. Okay, does creo que take the indicative? So basically, I think you're asking that. David, you're asking whether creo que takes the subjunctive or not, right? Can I just check that that's what you're asking? Does creo que take the subjunctive? Double check that that's what you're asking here. Okay, so David says, sorry, a bit slow on my end here. So, okay, yeah. So basically, creo que it's used a little bit differently in Spanish, because in Spanish, what you're saying is creo que you have an element of certainty. You're talking about you're usually saying that you believe something to be true. Okay, it's not like in English where I believe it is not a very forthright statement. So the basic rule to follow is that with creo que, just use the normal indicative verb, but with no creo que, you're always going to use a subjunctive. Okay? And the reason that's different is just because, when we translate creo que into English, it's kind of in the middle. It's not really, doesn't really fall into a neatly defined one. Okay, Anita's asking, I hope to go, this is not subjunctive, correct. But I hope that he goes is subjunctive. Yes, that's correct. And the reason is that there's a word that often triggers a subjunctive, which is que. And often when you've got other words like espero, if you say espero que, it's going to be taking the subjunctive. But espero ir is like a wish. Espero irme a la escuela más tarde. Usually when you put two verbs together like that, it doesn't take the subjunctive. But that's kind of more because it's a turn of phrase than anything else. It's not a particularly common thing to say. Does tal vez, quizás, and de pronto take subjunctive? Yes, it does, Nick, because they are inherently uncertain. But again, guys, what I want to reinforce here is that this is not it's not a bulletproof. None of this is bulletproof, but it's not because the system doesn't work. The reason is because you can change, you can play with this stuff depending on what you think, right? So if you want to give the impression of certainty, then you can use the indicative. But if you want to give the impression of, if you want to kind of make it clear that it's uncertain, you can choose to use the subjunctive where someone else might not. So you can play with these words and phrases. That make sense? Let's see if we've got any more questions coming in here. Dallas says, can I apply the use of English would or should to indicate the subjunctive? Dallas, I'd be careful with that, simply because as we get into the higher levels of Spanish, what happens is that you really want to avoid translating from English. I would rephrase the question and ask that in relation to specific Spanish phrases and verbs, you know. Have I understood you correctly? If I haven't, then let me know if I've misunderstood. Just waiting to see if Dallas can clarify there. Because again, because you're asking a lot of very specific questions, and the thing is that a lot of these questions here, like the first thing is that they are down to the speaker, right? So it's the speaker that can really decide what it is, and often some of these things are exceptions. So they can be exceptions to the rule, but in any event, what's really important is to not tie yourself in knots about specific cases. Remember what I said earlier about, you know, with this approach to thinking about the rules, what happens is that you're right 80-90% of the time. Okay, with the exceptions, like understanding the exceptions, like with anything in language learning, it's that kind of last 10% where you understand all the exceptions and nuances. That in many ways is a lifetime's work, you know, to reach those very, very high levels of Spanish. That's the kind of thing you might get in a kind of C2 level advanced test. But it's really, none of this stuff affects communication. And so insofar as grammar really holds people back and confuses them and makes them feel that, you know, I'm getting this stuff wrong, it's really important that you don't let that hold you back. Sylvia says, my example was trying to illustrate the difference between what I actually think and what I only think it might be. Well, Sylvia, yeah, I follow what you're saying. I think that's what you're saying here would be parameters for deciding whether to use the subjunctive. Yeah, so if you actually think something, if it's your opinion, then you don't use the subjunctive, because in your mind, and this is the key, it's in your mind as the speaker, in your mind, there's no doubt. So you can be perfectly forthright about it and just say what you think. Okay? It's when you are deliberately saying that I think it might be the case, or I'm not sure, it's a possibility, that's when the subjunctive comes into play. And remember, guys, through all of this, you will, it's going to be a very, very rare case that someone, I mean, no one will ever misunderstand you because you get the subjunctive wrong, okay? So it very rarely affects communication in this way. The opportunity for you is to refine your Spanish and to create a way to move beyond this kind of the intermediate, not being sure about how it works, right? To move, this lays the groundwork for moving on to advanced. Okay? And this is what we focus on in the academy, is like how do you okay, you've got to an intermediate level. There's a fair amount you understand. Grammar's still a bit confusing though. How do you move forward and advance? Well, this is how. It's by getting this framework right, by understanding exactly how the concepts work. How does a native speaker think? Because once you get that, then it frees you up to move on to the more advanced levels. Okay. Sylvia says, I like the approach because it's a very practical way of viewing it. Yeah, exactly. And because what I always try to do, because, you know, what do we know about learning Spanish? Well, we know if you study textbooks and try and learn rules, it doesn't work. You can learn some stuff, but there's just too much to hold in your head. We know that. At least I know it because it happens to everybody. I hear from hundreds of people a week who do this, right? So what I try to do is to cut right through and think about, well, how do native speakers think about this grammar? What can we learn from it? And how can you apply that as a learner? If I'd gone into every single exception in this class, I would confuse you out of the under the table. We can't afford to do that. In order to learn to become confident speakers of Spanish, we have to be comfortable with a little bit of ambiguity, but confident that we are right most of the time. Because then we can communicate with anybody. We can have successful conversations. Okay. Anita says, how can you test your Spanish level B2 versus C1? Anita, what I would do is I would go to the Instituto Cervantes and take the DELE exam, the DELE exam. It might be a bit boring because exams tend to be boring, but if you really want to test yourself like that, then you need to do a good exam, and it's the DELE exam that is the way to go. All right. Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much. It's been great to have you all on here. Thank you so much for all your interaction. It's been really fantastic. I appreciate it. If you have any trouble with the payment, like I think a couple of you might be, just drop me an email. We'll work that out for you. We have other ways of doing it. But don't worry, we will make that happen for you. Thanks very much, guys, and I will send you out the replay. If you're here late, I'll send you out the replay in the next 24 hours or so. Dallas says, having just subscribed, I look forward to seeing you for the rest of my life. Dallas, thank you, I think. I look forward to seeing you too. All right, then, guys. Bueno, tendré que despedirme en español, ¿no? Bueno, muchas gracias por estar aquí, por su atención. Suerte con el subjuntivo y, bueno, espero verles dentro de la academia. Bueno, adiós.